the subject of live music, this week it is Independent Venue Week, and our guest this afternoon is an ambassador for Independent Venue Week. Colin Greenwood, welcome to the programme. How are you?
You're very welcome. Sadly, I brought no Ferrero Rocher chocolates.
Nothing. No.
Sadly not. Just
you would never get that on a rider anyway. At any of these
well, maybe
venues,
if I mention a couple more times, I could get it. I don't know.
Before we talk about this week, take us back to the early days of Radiohead. What was your local venue when you first started?
A local venue was Jericho Tavern.
Jericho Tavern. And how long has the Jericho Tavern, was it quite an established venue by the time? Had you, when you formed, thought, one day we will get to play the Jericho Tavern?
It was a summit of our ambitions and a mark of our achievements was the Jericho Tavern, of course, because of all the great bands that were in Oxford around then too, you know.
So did you used to go there and see gigs yourselves?
Yeah, you know, like Tilly Lagoche, you remember like everyone wearing like the anoraks and the little Paddington Bear satchels and stuff, and I don't know, 5:30 Swerve Driver Ride, you know, amazing, and fantastic music that came out of Oxford and came to Oxford. That's what's cool about it.
This is one of the interesting things, isn't it? We'll talk about this later on, how having a venue for new bands is important so that the band themselves can play live, but also actually being able to watch other bands. You learn quite a lot.
That's the other half of the story. Yeah. In 180 Degrees, you instantly, you know, giant sound. You see bands from America coming over, bands from other part of the UK. You know, I mean, Lamacq, who was the old promoter, promoted us. He went on to promote like the first shows by Strokes and White Stripes, and they came to Oxford. You know, so it's fantastic. Yeah.
The early tours as well. So you obviously so leaving Oxford behind, you go on tour. I checked this. I looked it up, and in 1993, this week in 1993, last night you would have played the Canterbury Expose Club.
There you go.
Yeah. Today you would have had a day off, and tomorrow you'll be playing the Chelmsford Y Club.
The Y Club. That's right. Of course, I remember the Y Club. Yeah.
Y Club was one of the good venues on that circuit. Wasn't it?
I think it was like promoted by this guy who did like the Shifty Disco stuff as well, and I think they sort of had something to do with putting out some of the early Supergrass stuff as well. So
we should mention some of the other venues on that tour as well. Leicester, Princess Charlotte.
Oh man, yeah, of course, yeah. Andy was a promoter, Andy Wright. Yeah.
You can still remember their
names. 7 people. Well, I remember the guy from Parlophone who was like the head of marketing, and he looked like a Sergio Leone spaghetti western. He had like the leather waistcoat and the sort of curly beard and stuff. And we played like Creep for the first time.
Really?
Maybe not that one, but the first one before we were at the Charlotte.
Right.
My favourite things about the Charlotte was I said, oh, it's amazing. And so Sugar had just played there. I said, I wish I'd seen that. And Andy was like the promoter who said they're like the loudest band he'd ever put on. And then he was like, he checked himself. He said, no, sorry, that was Husker Du. They were the loudest band. Right. Amazing.
So Bob Mould had taken it down 1.
But exactly. He'd gone to 10.5. Yeah.
And how many people then? Is this the famous?
Well, no, that was the one before, and that was probably in '92. That was probably about 7 people.
7.
So I guess the '93 one was probably about 9.5 people.
I'll mention. So Buckley Tivoli was on this tour. King Tut's, Southampton Joiners, and Hull Adelphi. And we had this from Lonnie, who says, "My band Space Maid supported Radiohead at the Adelphi Club in Hull in '93. Radiohead had just released Creep. I think we'd never heard of them, never heard of this band. And as there was going to be a good home crowd, we thought we'll blow these young upstarts away. Yeah. I mean, we played a good gig, but needless to say, we were knocked out by Radiohead as they blasted the heck out of our tiny, much beloved home venue. Mouths were left hanging open.
Apart from the deaf dog that's like stood by the mixing desk and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, you see, there is a dog, isn't there?
There was a dog, at that
Which
venue.
used to sit on the top of the garage next door.
Yeah. Well, it is a very unimpressed, sonically challenged hound when we played. Well, what's cool about the Adelphi is when you load in and load out, it's where the audience come in. So you finish the show and you rock the show, and then you're sort of saying hi and bye whilst you're like pushing the boxes to the rusty white van.
Talking of loading in and loading out, Simon in Worthing says, I saw Radiohead at the Brighton Richmond upstairs above the pub.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that? I once roadied for a band at that gig. And humping all the stuff up the stairs, I remember.
Yeah. I remember one of your colleagues from the NME came to see that show and review it.
Really?
Yeah, Paul Moody, I think his name is. Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
I passed Tom York sitting on the stairs looking very pale. It was a great gig nonetheless, says Simon. Do you remember on these tours, I suppose, so 93, you'd be getting £50?
What, each?
No, £50 as a band.
Probably between, we got like £5 PDs from the tour manager. So find a Burger King that does a veggie burger in in Dudley or Derby or whatever.
So you didn't get fed?
No sandwiches, no cold deli platter, nothing like that. No, but it was just this sheer excitement and fun of checking out, your own country and seeing it through these amazing venues.
And so not necessarily free food. Any beer? Couple of beers.
Yeah, Norseman. Do you remember Norseman lager? You remember the generic sort of container lagers? That was like stuff behind the Rover car seats in the white van. Yeah.
You say seeing a lot of the country, but in a lot of cases, you used to drive home after.
That's it. That's right, and disturb the neighbours off the Cowley Road, pushing the boxes back into the shared house. That's right.
And what time were you getting back?
About 3:30. You sound like my parents.
No, I remember this.
3 in the morning.
I was astonished by this, even after you'd signed to Parlophone, and I remember following the tour where you were supporting Kingmaker on tour.
That's right,
and you went,
everyone supported Kingmaker.
I know, this is true, but you went home virtually every night, apart from I think one night where we all stayed in some very kitsch hotel in Stoke.
That's right, yeah,
after Kiel
and the rooms had their own tea and coffee making facilities. It was and Corby trouser presses. That's right, fantastic.
You knew you'd made it then.
You did.
How did you get involved in this thing, Independent Venue Week? Did they come to you and say, look, you've done all these venues and everything, you probably, as much as anyone, know the importance of them?
Absolutely. A friend of mine, she asked me if I'd like to become involved, and I was more than happy to, because it's so important, it's so fantastic. The idea of going out of an evening, your local gig, to go and see something unexpected, to happen to you in your life. It's a brilliant thing, in the days of internet and likes and clicking and algorithms saying if you like this, try this, but actually something like this where you can have an evening where you can have a good night out and not know what's going to happen, and you can have one of the best nights of your life. So yeah, it's brilliant.
And the other important facets of, I suppose we should start off by taking our hats off to the people who put the gigs on.
The promoters.
It can't be easy. It wasn't easy 20 years ago, but I imagine in these fiscally challenged times, actually making ends meet and putting bands on and taking the risk of putting your own money up.
Absolutely.
Should be applauded.
When we played in front of 7 people, we played in Creep, at Princess Charlotte in '92. We had the benefits of a record company who lent us a bunch of money up front, and they were also like covering some of the costs. Supporting the tour support, it's called, so some of the tickets and stuff, and supporting the promoters. And I think it's got a lot harder now, which is why I think it's really important to focus on like local venues, because I think it helps. It may be harder for like bands to get out on the road as much as we did, because they don't have that financial support. So what they really need is they need the local support, and they need the promoters to give them the support to sort of grow and flourish within their own local scenes.
And we said, it's partly about bands being able to watch other bands. Also, did you realise? Could you see yourself as a band getting better the more you toured? When you got back from a tour, did you think, actually, I think we're marginally better now than when we came out the rehearsal room?
No, so what we did is we had like our sound engineer, who we still work with, Big Jim. Yeah. He'd really tape every gig. And then we get it back into the LT45 and bomb down the M1 or whatever, and we listen back to the show that night on some crappy little little cassette on a cassette. After the gig, we listen to it and then and say what we it's so exciting, because what could be more fun than like sticking in a cassette and like blaring out all these electric guitars and stuff that you just played. So yeah.
Did you not by the end of the tour have a fine system in place? If you could hear a bum note, I'm finding you a fiver.
That's it. No, we were never that organised. No, sadly, no.
But there's the other thing though, that what's important is not just the musical development, but bands bond or break on tour.
Yeah.
If you're ever going to find out how well this band is going to survive, that time, apart from being in the rehearsal room, time,
because you're really in each other's faces all the time. It's true. And I think, for Tom, I think what happened for him as well, I think he realised, because he's such an amazing singer, that there is only so much sort of, having a beer and stuff and staying up late you can do, if you've got that kind of voice and you push it that hard. So, but as I said, like the chance to go and see this country and visit all these places and see like bookshops and record shops and, explore all these different scenes and stuff. It was such an enormous privilege, and it's still happening now. And it's a brilliant thing to check out.
Tell us a little bit more about what's going on this week. There are gigs around various venues around the country.
Yeah, it's like 17 venues around the country, and there's just there's like an onslaught of bands that are playing everywhere. And you can check out the roster, the list on the Independent Music Venue Week website. If you just look that up, you can check it out. Plays Glasgow, King Tut's, Norwich, loads of places that are putting on shows. The Joiners, which I remember we did years ago, I think with and so yeah, loads of places.
Okay, look up details on the website. It almost doesn't matter though who's playing. I think the word is this week. If you have got a spare few bob, just go out and see your local band. If there's something happening this week, just nip out. You never know what you might find. Yeah,
I'll see Archie Bronson tomorrow night. I'm going to see at Half Moon, and then in Putney, and then Oxford Jericho on the 1st.
Yes. Now, hang on a second. We can't gloss over this. You're co-promoting this.
I've dipped a toe into the curate. Yeah, that's it.
You're curating this gig. Tell us about this gig. It's Oxford. It's you and BBC introducing in Oxford.
That's it. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be headlined with Glass Animals and then We Aeronauts, who I hope we'll be hearing later, and Salvation Bill and Charlie Cunningham. At £6 on the door, 7 p.m. 1st of February.
See, 6 notes, dead cheap. I just want to throw this one at you. Alex in Brighton says, talking of this is what we're after, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever seen a band who became big? A big band what's the biggest band you've seen in the smallest venue? I once saw Radiohead in a cricket club in St Albans. It was just after the first release of Creep. The place was so small it could only fit about 50 people. There wasn't even a stage, just a corner of the room that doubled up as a dance floor. They were brilliant. You don't even remember that?
I don't remember that at all, no. God.
Talking about the boys, we can't let you go without asking how the rest of the lads in
they're all
Radiohead.
Good, yeah. I just saw Eddie and Nigel, our producer, and just talking about stuff, making plans. Yeah, it's all good.
Do you keep in touch much? Or do you find yourself needing a little bit of a break from the rest of them?
That can happen.
Can it?
That can happen. And but I just saw Tom briefly this morning, and I saw Johnny on Friday, and Phil's busy making his record, and it's all good.
And who is the first to crack? Who's the one who who puts the phone call in saying we're getting the band back together? What I imagined was in my head that
an old police car.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Partly it's the Blues Brothers. We're getting the band back together. Or you take another film, and I had this image of somewhere over the southeast of England, a big shining. The bat signal goes off. There's a big like a Batman signal in the sky, and you notice it's time to scramble.
Steve, who are we rescuing? I mean, who are we saving? Who are we saving what from what, you know?
You're saving pop
music. Do you think
so?
What, again?
Yeah.
Do you think so?
Yeah. Well, it's either you or this band. Tell us about this group then. We Aeronauts.
Yeah. Okay.
Where did you come across them?
Only through like getting involved with the Independent Music Venue Week, and I just love it. It's a fantastic, fresh tune and great voice, and I love it. And it's called Through the Door, I think.
That's the one.
Yeah, and it's fantastic.
Excellent, Colin. It's lovely to see you, and go out and support your local live music venues this week. It's Independent Venue Week.